The New England Patriots are 7-7 and most recently lost to the Las Vegas Raiders in about as embarrassing of a way as you're going to find. Their final few games are home against Cincinnati, home against Miami, and at Buffalo, all of which are very tough games. The AFC in a lot of ways has moved on, and New England is yesterday's news. The Patriots are not the same old Patriots, and their future outlook is very dim at this point in time. And in today's video, we're going to take a look how we got to this point, what they can do moving forward, and how they can get out of this lull. It's more than likely not going to be a pleasant video for Patriots fans in terms of the outlook on their situation, and for Patriots haters, and for the people that have been wanting to see them lose because of their sustained success. Well, I think you will enjoy this video, and there is a lot to dive into, and without further ado, let's begin. And we are going to start today's video by taking a brief glance at the Patriots' 7 wins. Their first win was in Week 2 over the Mitch Trubisky-led Steelers, in which Mitch averaged just 5.1 yards per passing attempt, and Najee Harris averaged just 3.3 yards per carry. They won in a defensive battle over a team that will more than likely not make the playoffs with a score of 17-14. They shut out the Lions, and I really want to credit New England for doing that, as yes, Detroit is a completely different team a few months later, but a shutout in the NFL is never easy. They beat the Jacoby Brissett Browns, they swept the Jets in games Zach Wilson started, and in one of those games he threw 3 interceptions, with one of them occurring on a pass he was trying to throw away. The other was the infamous he did not let the defense down game. And their other 2 wins were over the Colts with Sam Ehlinger as a quarterback in a game they completely dominated, and in Week 14 over the Cardinals on Monday night, in which Kyler Murray tore his ACL on the second play of the game. I don't want to say 0 of these wins are impressive, as a lot of contending teams often struggle with teams you would think they would roll over, and a perfect example would be Kansas City and Houston in Week 15. But their losses are about what you would expect, and we're not going to go through every single one of them, but I do think the main takeaways, or the point is, they lost by 2 touchdowns at home to Buffalo, and by 13 points to Miami all the way back in Week 1. And within that Buffalo game specifically, I mean, aside from the Raiders' final play, I think you could argue that is cumulatively the lowest point of their season, and a meme play where everyone clowns them is an exception, of course. But within the Bills game, which was on Thursday Night Football and a game everyone was watching, Buffalo in a lot of ways embarrassed them. They outgained them by over 100 yards, they held the ball for over 38 minutes of the game, had no answer for Stephon Diggs, couldn't run the ball, and it was shown all game. And the reason why I think you can argue this was the low point was not only was this a big game for both teams, but heading in, Buffalo was 8-3 and New England was 6-5. So if New England won, keep in mind this was at Gillette Stadium, the Week 18 game against the Bills would potentially have a lot of impact, as New England could have the opportunity to sweep them. The cherry on top would have been that the win in Week 18 would come in Buffalo. We no longer have to worry about that because their big brother let them know this is now their division. And aside from it being a big game, what I also want to be remembered is this was the first game since the 47-17 whooping Buffalo gave them in the first round of the playoffs last year. If Bill Belichick wanted to win any game all year, it was going to be this game. It was going to be on primetime and to show everyone he's back. But their offensive coordinator is Matt Patricia, who has been awful all year, and New England's only touchdown, for those that may not know, wasn't scored by Ramondre Stevenson or Jacoby Myers. It was scored on a screenplay by rookie defensive back Marcus Jones. The score was 24-7 for most of the fourth quarter, and a big problem, if you guys remember, was they couldn't punch the ball in offensively. It took a 17-play, 60-yard, 6-minute drive just to cut it to a 2-possession game. And in the last 2 games these teams played, Buffalo has won with a combined score of 71-27. And dating back to 2020, Buffalo has won 5 of the last 6 games, and I do think they will beat them in Week 18. That is, of course, assuming they have the number 1 seed in the AFC to play for. And the reason why this is such a big deal for New England and why they are in a bad situation is towards the end of the Tom Brady era, the 2017 to 2019 area to be clear, Buffalo was building the team we see today, and there's a very good chance they win a Super Bowl in the next couple of years. And they did a lot of this through the draft and supplementing through free agency, and it's shown. They drafted Josh Allen, and obviously Josh Allen helps. I'm not going to pretend that a top 2 or 3 quarterback in the NFL doesn't. They also drafted Tre'Davious White, Tremaine Edmonds, Matt Milano, who has quietly become one of the best linebackers in the entire NFL, and brought in key pieces like Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde. They've also made key trades like how they acquired Stephon Diggs. Now, I didn't include Von Miller, and obviously that is a huge signing, but you guys get the point. And while Buffalo has done everything the right way in terms of building through the draft, and really in a lot of ways become the model of how to build a modern-day NFL franchise, New England has sort of been in this gray area of minding their P's and Q's and are treading water, and barely at that. The offense is a problem, as they can't hang with the upper echelon teams in the AFC, and they are currently 17th in points per game, and are averaging 21.4 points per game, and that makes sense when you think about it. They're an average team and are right around league average in terms of offense. Their wins show that, and their losses show that. And I'm not saying New England is an awful team as much as I'm saying they are in an awful situation. Since the start of the 2020 season, or since Tom Brady left to become a Tampa Bay Buccaneer, they are 24-23 and are 0-1 in the playoffs. The problem, if you want to call it this, and hear me out here, is having Bill Belichick as a head coach means they are never going to be a 3 or 4 win team, period. But they're also not good enough to seriously compete, leaving them in this area they've been in now for a couple of years. And I honestly fear the Patriots are going to stay here for a little while longer because of having Bill Belichick as a head coach. Because guys, at the end of the day, Bill is not a Super Bowl champion. He's a 6-time Super Bowl champion. He is second in all-time wins behind only Don Shula of the Miami Dolphins. And that is if you include postseason wins in this, as technically Bill is third all-time in regular season wins behind Shula and George Halas. But the point here is Robert Kraft is not going to fire Bill. He's 70 years old and has brought more success to the Patriots franchise than any head coach could ever dream of. And obviously Robert, along with everyone in the Patriots organization, knows this. So now we're in this hover around 500 area, and maybe we'll have a year like in 2021 above 500 and get to the playoffs, only to be a first-round exit. And this is why I think the Patriots are in trouble moving forward. They have a head coach they can't get rid of, and for as legendary as Bill is, he has his faults, and I think a big one is hiring his guys. Matt Patricia has no business being an offensive coordinator, and it shows week in and week out, but he is one of Bill's guys. New England's top 3 receivers are Jacoby Myers, Devontae Parker, and Nelson Aguilar, and that's not a good receiving core compared to some others across the NFL. The talent the Patriots have on the offensive side of the ball versus the defensive side of the ball isn't close, and I don't want to slam them this entire video because I do like a lot of the players they have on their team. Matt Judon is one of the best defensive players in the NFL and has back-to-back seasons of at least 12.5 sacks. He is an absolute unit. I also think New England has one of the most underrated players in the entire NFL, and that's third-year player Josh Uche. Uche is having a breakout year and has 10.5 sacks and 2 forced fumbles on the 2022 campaign. He should be a Pro Bowler. But when looking at the NFL from a league standpoint in 2022, and we used Buffalo as an example earlier in the video, you can look at another team in their division in the Miami Dolphins as well as how to transform a team. They traded for Tyreek Hill, and there is more to their team than just Tyreek, Tua, and Jalen Waddle, but you get the point. For as good of a defensive mastermind as Bill is, as the Patriots are currently 7th in points allowed per game in 2022, I think it is okay and it is reasonable to criticize him for how passive he is in acquiring offensive talent. Obviously, hindsight is 2020, and it's easy to go back in time now and say, which would you rather have? But this is a gripe I have with the Patriots, not trading for players when the opportunity is there. And would you rather have Tyreek Hill or Cole Strange and Tyquan Thornton? This is referring to the Miami trade, in which they gave up a 1 and a 2, along with a few other picks to acquire Tyreek Hill, who is currently second in the NFL in receiving yards and has played an integral part in the Dolphins' 2022 success. He's played a huge part in helping Tua grow as a player and helping ease Mike McDaniel in as a head coach. I like Mac Jones as a quarterback, and I think he can be a starter for the Patriots for a long time, but he needs help. And I don't think the Patriots are close to getting the most out of Mac. I will never understand why they took Tyquan Thornton over players like George Pickens, Alec Pierce, and Sky Moore, and it's draft day decisions like this that come back and bite teams in the ass. Imagine if Philly had Justin Jefferson at the moment, and because the Patriots' offense is lacking weapons where they need it most, they're more than likely going to remain in this 7-9 win area, and occasionally they may get lucky and get 10 wins like they did in 2021, only to run into one of the big dogs in the AFC, in which they will get beat almost every single time. A couple of years ago, the narrative around Kirk Cousins, and hell, you still see it, was he's going to beat the bad teams, and anytime Kirk Cousins-led teams plays a great team, they will fold. And I think that's where we are with New England. What makes matters worse is they have a team that will be contending every single year in Buffalo in their division for the next decade. Josh Allen is 26 years old. He's not 37 or 38 and about to retire. So New England's game plan heading into not just the 2023 offseason, but for pretty much every offseason in the next decade, assuming Josh stays healthy, is how can we get better to the point where we can beat Buffalo? Not only has Buffalo beat New England in 5 of the past 6 games, but 4 of them have been double-digit victories for the Bills. And until the Patriots really figure out what they're going to do to get past this team, they're in a lot of ways going to be stuck where they are. Oh, and if in the scenario they do get by them one year, aside from a game where they threw the ball 3 times and they actually beat them in the postseason, they're going to have teams like the Patrick Mahomes-led Chiefs and the Joe Burrow-led Bengals waiting for them en route to a Super Bowl. So to be completely honest here, guys, I think teams like the Patriots are in some ways screwed, because what are they going to do moving forward? My best guess is they are at some point in time going to have to make a risky trade involving a first-round pick and then some to stay relevant, because this pace and what they're doing now will not get them to their 7th championship. Not this year, not next year, not in the next 10 years, because they are treading water. And I think the situation for New England will get worse before it gets better. And that's all I have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please like the video and subscribe to the channel, as it would mean the world. And until next time, as always, please be safe and have a great day. Love you guys.